Oh, he doesn't want to go live.
Well, it's telling me that we're
Hi.
live.
The technical difficulties. Hi
Hmm,
everybody. We are here for another episode of the Wired for Success podcast. And today we are um putting an emphasis on stress relief. Stress relief because we believe that after such an amount of stress for the whole academic year, it's really good to kind of clear the decks before you can move on to other things. And the best way to do this is to release everything that um, can be a little bit of I don't know, create a cloud onto what it is that we want to create later. So today we're going to give you a little bit more of like tips and tools. Steve is going to share some exercise that as parents you can do, and also that you can help your young people with.
great. Thanks, Patience. It's good to be here again. What a strange time of day, though. My head's telling me it's Tuesday morning and we're going live as usual. So I'm kind of all over the place. Um, and I've just been for a mountain bike ride as well. And usually I'm not in that place on Tuesday morning. And it's a very positive place to be because a mountain bike ride for me is incredible stress release. It's a bit muddy out there. We had a really big storm on Friday night. I mean, a really big one. There was a lot of water all over the place. It was like I was caught walking a dog at the time, and I felt as though I was walking in a river, but it was a road. It was a little bit crazy. So it kind of washed everything away. It washed away all the dirt that was sitting on the roads, and it cleared the mud and all that sort of stuff. It shook everything clean. And in a sense, what we want to do after a busy school year or a busy term is to see if we can shake loose all the debris that we carry with us. The thing is, of course, and what is really important is that this stuff, whatever this stuff is that you picked up along the way in the summer term, be it from exams or general school pressure or work and school pressure or work, school and kids pressure, there's a lot of pressures that we all suffer from. We can't do anything about it right now. It's kind of ended. The school year has ended. We're in holiday mode, or at least the kids are. We may still have to go to work, but we're largely in holiday mode. Things are different. So we've got to learn how to manage these different things. So, what can we do? How can we change it? I just want to mention this thing called an upward and a downward spiral. It's based on something called the emotional guidance scale. It's a positive psychology thing. So, Patience, if I said to you, you appear to be on a downward spiral, what would you think I was saying to you?
I believe in that sense, it will be as if I'm going into this kind of like negative thinking, and I keep having maybe negative things or challenges coming, and I'm focusing on this, and it's going down and down and down. That's what we'll say. I don't know. Is that the right answer or not? I'm not sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good answer. That's a great answer. There's no exact right answer because if you look at the emotional guidance scale, there's a lot of things come into the downward spiral. And one of the first things on the downward side is boredom. I remember as a kid at school getting into the summer holidays and after a few weeks saying, Mom, I'm bored. Mom, I'm bored. There was loads of things to do. I lived in the countryside. There was lots to do, but I still found this boredom thing, and I've heard it in my own children as well. So boredom is one of the things that we might find in a downward spiral. So if we're bored, we may become pessimistic about the things that are suggested to us. We might be frustrated or impatient. We don't want to wait another 2 weeks until we go away on
Mm-mm.
holiday, for example. We might feel disappointed because all our friends aren't available. We thought they would be. It's summer holidays, for goodness sake. So there's lots of things. And we begin to doubt and worry, and we feel a bit discouraged, and it can become worse. We don't want to go into that downward spiral. What we want to try and achieve is the opposites, which is the upward spiral. And so in the upward spiral, we start to feel things like content, hopeful, optimistic. We have positive expectations and beliefs. We're enthusiastic, and we develop some passion for the things that we're doing. But how can we do all of those things? We can't just switch on the little magic switch in our heads to make us feel positive. We need to do some positive things to achieve that. One good thing to try, and this is aimed at every member of the family, and it's good to do it at the same time, is you've heard me talk about breathing before, but if we do this as a family exercise, it's quite interesting. So I practiced this for a while with my own family, and I had some great comments, some really funny comments as well. So we all sat together and we said, okay, we'll start by breathing in through our mouth, and we'll do it for 5 seconds. And then we hold our breath for 5, and we gently push the breath out through our mouth for 5. Now, 5 seconds doesn't work well for everybody, but we settled on 5. So I was getting comments like, it's too quick, I'm getting dizzy, this is funny, this is stupid, why are we doing this, Dad, what's the point? So we were getting all those kinds of seemingly negative questions, but they weren't negative really. It was everybody having a little bit of fun, and it broke the ice. It enabled people to relax. So what we need is not something complicated. You don't need me with my psychology hat on saying, okay, I'll come into this family and sort it out. You need simple things. You need simple things to break the ice, to make people laugh, to have a smile about. We need to say the things that are in school stay in school.
Yes.
The things that are out in the peer group that we're not going to see again until September are in the peer group until September. And you know what? In September, the peer group might change. One person may have left, a new one may have come in. There's all kinds of dynamics that could occur.
Yeah.
So we don't need to be worrying about that stuff. So what can we do? Simple icebreakers. We can do the breathing thing that I just talked about.
Yes.
We can go for a family walk. I remember taking my kids for a family walk, and when they were little, it was great. They loved it. They thought it was superb. There was loads to do, and they got interested in twisted branches in trees. Take them for a walk today, they don't get interested in twisted branches in trees anymore. They will have a conversation. So we're obviously pitching at the level of the young people with us. If we take the older kids from my part of the family, mine and my partner's part of the family, and our 2-year-old grandson, that's a different dynamic altogether. So we can have a lot of fun with that one. So it's about being lighthearted, about being easygoing, about giving people space and time to relax.
Yes. Yeah.
So Patience, what about you? You've got some children at home.
Yes, I do. I think another thing, before I come on to the kids, but another thing as well, I think, which you mentioned when we said we leave things where they are, is that it's always good to have this kind of like slight visualization exercise where there is a box, and as we are not going to talk about this subject, we're going to take it and we're going to put it in this box. We're going to close the box. So is every action you're doing as to put away this subject or whatever it is that you want to kind of clear out the way, is to imagine that you are taking it as an object and you are actually doing the action. So you are putting this. So we're not talking about school no more. We're not talking about secondary school. We're not talking about going here or there, or the teachers or the peers, the friends, blah, blah, blah. We take it and boom, we put it in the box. We close the box. And sometimes we have a key to lock the box. It all depends of the box that you are visualizing, what it is that you are seeing at the moment. Like at the moment, as I'm talking to you, I'm seeing a wooden box, and I'm seeing this kind of ball that I'm putting into the box, and then I'm locking it with a key. So doing this, it sounds again like Steve was saying, those are little exercises that sounds a bit silly, but they work. I think they work because they're so simple, and you don't have to like break your brain or make it to be able to put this into action. So that's one thing. Then in terms, I think we talk a lot about obviously the young people, but also as parents, there is some things that you should do in terms of, like, first of all, not to lose your mind because having the kids at home is also an extra challenge. You are used to doing things in your own way. Everybody is out to school or out to do this, and then all of a sudden the whole family is home. Ah, how do we manage um all these different people who are in different spaces all at the same time? So so there's that as well. And I think that the breathing exercise that Steve shared is really, really great. So I was talking to a customer last week, and she explained to me that just doing the breathing already kind of put a stop to all the things that were going into her mind. So the overwhelm, all the thought coming at one time, and this and this and that. And just by doing the breathing, she just calmed down. So if you were to, let's say, scale yourself and say, you know what, I'm going to scale myself at the 10 of overwhelm. Just by doing the breathing, you're already decreasing the anxiety or the stress that you have. So I think this is something that is really important. And then I think an exercise that Steve already shared long ago, but I think is really important, is when you're doing walking or you're going somewhere, it's just doing mindful walking. And really, as you take a step, just really concentrate on that step, and having that word, if it's like ease, maybe ease is the word, and just saying ease, 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 ease. All of those things are things that are definitely going to decrease your stress level, and they are going to bring a little bit more of, if I can say, empathy, empathy within the family cocoon, which
Yeah.
normally, when there's so many people to deal with at one time, you kind of feel like, ah. And I'm not going to lie to you, I've been feeling a little bit since the holidays, but I'm also doing the exercises.
Yeah. I think as well, the holidays are an opportunity. They're an opportunity to do things slightly differently. So you've already
Mm,
mentioned Patience. When everybody's at school, they've got their thing, they have lunch whenever they have their lunch. When people go to work, there's a particular time when they have their lunch, etc., etc. So it's all structured. So we don't want to destructure our lives entirely when everybody's at home for the summer, because that would probably cause chaos in most families. We're used to some form of structure. We also get hungry around about the middle of the day as well, and that's okay. That's cool. So we hit on the idea of having a lunch together. And we
mm,
started this a few years ago. So round about 1 o'clock, or round about, it's not exactly at 1 o'clock. It may be quarter past, it may be quarter to. It's been even known to be nearly 2 o'clock, but we have lunch together. So everybody participates. It's not a big cooked thing. It's like bread and cheese and so on and so forth. Everybody gets involved in making the table ready to have this lunch. And we sit down and we have the lunch. Nobody's allowed to dash away. Nobody's allowed to get the phones out. If we see a phone under the table, we confiscate it for a few minutes, which is usually quite funny, but it does happen. It's got to be said. So having that lunch keeps a little bit of structure in the day, but it also gives us a chance to be together, because we don't often get that chance.
Yeah.
I've got to admit, when I'm working and the kids are in school and my partner's at work in normal routine, quite often I'm the one in the house alone.
Mm.
And I've got a routine that I follow. I have appointments at certain times. I have lunch more or less at a certain time. I go for a mountain bike ride late in the afternoon before early evening appointments. So I've got my thing. But when everybody's here, it doesn't work.
It doesn't.
So why try and force something on a foot that doesn't fit? So let's try and be flexible. That's the key. Being
Yeah.
flexible together is helpful, and I think a very positive thing to do. Now, there is an advanced exercise that I can't really present here because it takes about half an hour. But if anybody is interested in this particular mindful exercise, it's called the Eye of the Hurricane. And the idea is that you put yourself at the center of the hurricane. Why would you want to do that? Because at the center of a hurricane, the eye, everything's peaceful and calm, because the hurricane is whirling around you, but it's not actually happening in the center. And that's where we want to place you. So all this stuff whirling around in the hurricane are the stresses of your life, the stresses that your kids are bringing into your life, the stresses that you're putting into their lives, because let's be honest, we do that too. So it's all of that stuff. So it's a way to manage it, and it's called the Eye of the Hurricane. It can be found on the internet. I wouldn't advise somebody just plucking a YouTube video and trying to follow it, because that's not really helpful. You need it to be live and in person. Sometimes questions come up, feelings definitely come up, so it's not something you should try and do alone. But it's there if anybody's interested. It's called Eye of the Hurricane. So just let us know, and we will get back to you. Patience.
Yeah, I think this is a really good exercise, as you are saying, and I will really encourage any parents who want to know more to get in touch with us, to get in touch with Steve, and to really try to have a go. Have a chance, have a go, try it out, and really immerse yourself into it. What I realized is that as you were talking, it made me think of this kind of saying or proverb where when there's a hurricane, I think is the bull. The bull, is it the bull? One animal in particular runs towards the tornado instead of running away from it, because as you run through it, obviously you actually become, I don't know if it's weird to say, but you become safer by running into it.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yes. in that way. But when thinking of that and thinking of this clearing the decks, is exactly that. Is the fact that also you don't have to think, it's the holiday, so we must do this, and pile on the calendar with this and that. Oh, we're gonna go here and we're gonna. This is also what brings the overwhelm, and the idea is, which I really truly encourage clients to do, is to sit in their silence. Sometimes it is okay to allow space and allow silence. Not everything has to be about communicating. And also silence is a part of communicating. But what I mean is you don't have to be verbal. You don't have to be all the time together. There's also this idea that, yes, the kids are away from school or they're back home, but they don't necessarily want to be spending all their time with you as a parent. They also want their own space. And I think it's also allowing that and making sure that we are bringing in this kind of, like, I'm going to say, democracy in the family, where it's like, you know what, we have time for this, and everybody's gonna join in, as Steve was saying, even like for the dinner or for the lunch. but at the same time, we have this time for each other. So each individual, and we are taking our time. And I think it's great because not only it gives space to the young people, but it also gives space to the parents to be like, "Ooh, I'm taking a breather."
Yeah. I think just one more thing to say as well, Patience, is so we talked about clearing the decks, but some things shouldn't really be cleared, or they can't really be cleared. So, for example, I've got a pretty brown envelope here. It's upside down. This came from school a few days after school was finished to say to me, your daughter has a placement on week 2 of going back to school. You have to find the placement. And I thought, hang on a minute, we just started the holidays. She needs a break. She doesn't want to be thinking about having a break. So what do we do with this brown envelope? Simple. We put it in a box and we put a date on it. So on X date, we will get this out of the box and we will deal with it. It's the only way. We're not going to worry about it. We're not going to think about it. We're not going to wonder what could be done about it or not done about it. We're just going to deal with it on an X date, whatever date that happens to be. We know what it is here. You know, so we're still keeping the decks clear, but we are acknowledging that something needs to be done. And I think that's important. We always used to acknowledge when our kids were little that they needed new shoes for September. Yeah. And we used to say on the 3rd week in August, whatever it was, that's what we're doing. You know, so we do have to schedule some things.
Yeah.
So let's
and it is, and I like this, I like what you just shared, because this is exactly it. It's as stressful for the young people as it is stressful for you as a parent. Like the whole going to look for the you know, the materials you need to buy, the school uniform, or the this that you need to buy for the new school year. No one wants to think about that. I found that the more I age, the more I age, the more I don't really like shopping. So imagine when you've got to shop for three boys and you've got to go. It's not something that I'm particularly looking forward to. So exactly that. Giving it a date and saying, you know what, I'm not going to worry about this now. When it comes to then, I will be able to. It's also a way to release that anxiousness and that stress as a parent.
Yeah.
All right. So so I don't know if there's anything else you want to add, Steve, but I think for today it's been a good share already, and I hope that parents and young people would take advantage of what was shared today and will use it, implement it in their holiday period right now. All right, so we're probably going to see you next week for another episode of the Wired for Success show. Thank you.
Good to see you, everybody. Take care. Bye.
Bye.